Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case. Today we got quite an explosive review of what's gone down in recent time involving the likes of Justin, Roy, Jan Fiorillo and the odd other person as well. Their reactions, responses and outlook in regard to, I guess, the video that I did last night and what was said within it. I guess there has been a misunderstanding, but when is there not? I will be defending and responding today just to put things into perspective, but it could get a little heated and we don't know who could be showing up tonight in the live premiere. So welcome to everybody that's here. Feel free to share this video as soon as possible so more people get to see it, the reactions and opinions by individuals. The theme of today though, which I'll be working around and adding my own thoughts in as well later, be sure to stick around for that, is who is the victim? Who are the victims? Is there only one, Noah Presgrove, or are there more at any point in time? Could it be dismissive, some people's approach? What, because they've been proven wrong since? So they're dismissive of, oh, it doesn't matter about the past. This is what we're focused on now. This is what we should be looking at now. What, instead of admitting errors along the way and trying to brush it aside. See, this happened in the Dylan Rounds case in a way where people were pushing the gay theory on Dylan and much more, and who was actually responsible as the murderer. They got it wrong. And guess what happened in the end? They jumped ship and they were like, well, we're all here for Dylan Rounds. We're all here for justice, right? We're all in the same boat. Get fucked. Get a grip of yourself and reflect back, know your place and shut your mouth. Not literally, that's just like a little slogan. That's all, don't need to worry about that. But it's all coming down to the goldfish mentality. I've seen it in the past, it can happen again and again with time. In regard to predictions that I've made in recent time, they have come true. That so-called peace tweety, didn't work, did it? Because people are throwing their toys out the pram once again. People are having a little piss pot tantrum. That is a shame. Maybe we can refer to it a little bit more later on. But as I said, for those watching the live premiere, make sure to use the live chat on the right. And whilst last night was a very important video and people may have been a little busy elsewhere, we are focusing in today. And if you do want to catch up on what last night was all about, hence why we're here now, you'll need to catch up on it. You'll find that top right where the I symbol is, click there. You get the drop-down box with the full playlist and the video from last night, including some other ones. And be sure to drop your comments, questions, and anything else under this video in the comment section. I will respond back when I can. I have done so with the last video, but there are a few comments I have not responded back to yet, hence why I'm doing them today, because it's a part of the theme and the topic. Important talking points that need to be made, and hopefully people can listen along. What I will say is, and this is just from observations, my observations, for most part of it, big shout out to people from the dark side who actually do listen in. And whilst at times it might not look like it in the chat, they do show it and the understanding and appreciation during or at the end or later on, and you see it in the comments. So I did try responding back to those. Credit to those people. And anyone else in between, regardless of what side, I mean, I've also got to acknowledge, you know, the viewers in between, as in viewers that have been around longer, regardless of side and regardless of what case or community. Big shout out to those people too. The last thing I'll just add in briefly is if anyone wants to support the channel in a practical, anonymous way, you'll be able to find that method down below in the comment section, pinned message at the top by me with additional links, for example, the PayPal one. With that being said, the order of how we'll do things today, I'm going to show you the screenshots of the comments. I'll read them out, analyze when necessary, and then once we get to a certain chapter or end point, then I'll add on my thoughts and talk from there and then we'll see how we go. Feel free to listen in, and let's begin. First of all, we have Justin Roy's comment here, and there is a thread in which Jan Fiorillo adds on. We'll get to that in a second. This is in regard to the theme of who is the victim? Is there more than one or not? And Justin says, let's all be perfectly clear here. Noah Presgrove is the only victim here. He's dead and not coming back. Noah died because of that social hosting party that he was invited to. We all know there is more to this story and are just patiently waiting for the truth to come out. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot more of the victim role from that party house. Glad we can see them deep pockets hard at work. Talk about sickening. Noah Presgrove is the only victim here. We all wished he never went to that social hosting party with weapons and his death, sadly. I mean, it's very interesting this because there are different perspectives and outlooks and possible counterpoints and, you know, alternative scenarios where I could say, well, if Noah is the only victim, then does that mean that Justin's daughter isn't a victim to what's gone on within the case and everything like that was all fine and dandy? You can see how we can go down different avenues and it will spark absolute devastation and chaos, but it's all under control here, and I'm going to try and break it down bit by bit. It all comes down to whether the viewer, the actual consumer, wants to listen and watch along, because as we've seen, there's been a handful of people over time that have decided to only watch the first few minutes or skip along and miss out important details. There's been other people in between that have watched my live premieres and have jumped the gun saying, Raf, why did you not include this or that? And then 2 seconds later, I do mention it. It just requires a level of patience. There's a lot to get through. There's a lot to mention and suggest in a reasonable, controlled way, and to make sure it's handled appropriately. If one was to rush ahead, well, then more mistakes could be made. And I guess we see that with other people with time, and they're not even creators. So that says a lot. Do I agree with Justin's overall point here that Noah Presgrove is the only victim here? I would disagree. Noah Presgrove is and will always be the original victim. But as part of the case and the ongoing investigation, and with time passing by and people being dragged in different ways, there is more than one victim. And that can also include Justin's daughter too, with what's gone about in recent time. And I'll try and explain from different angles as to who could be a victim and why, to my knowledge and memory. In terms of any other points that need to be acknowledged here, waiting for the truth to come out. Obviously, if the truth does come out from the light or dark, it will be welcomed as long as it's clear, there is context and meaning behind it. That's not always been the case, but more so recently, there's been a better level of depth, like with the time stamps, the years and extra bits added like that. It goes a long way in order to be able to form a timeline, as you've seen in my videos. And to be fair, some of the videos that I have done in recent time, including those timelines and those photo comparisons, really, really important in my opinion, heavily underappreciated by certain outsiders out there that jump in on the typical default line of, oh, looking at comments and Facebook, that's it. Far from it. Been doing a lot more as time's gone on. Anything else that needs to be addressed here? I'm sure there's going to be a lot more victim roles from the party house. So you mean like other party goers playing the victim card to gain sympathy, to look like that they're the wounded party, literally, so then people will go easier on them and be more lenient, a form of manipulation. Is that what could be highlighted here? The mention of deep pockets hard at work. It is obviously interesting that so early on in the case, 2023, I think September 17th, 2023, Robin Smith mentions about people with deep pockets way before the actual mention of it by the dark side, who posted the odd comment online later. So Robin Smith knew already early on about the deep pockets, which is really interesting. If any more context can be added in regard to that, then we'll see. But I think there might be more context from, last night's coverage from the live chat replay. I might have to catch up on that at a different point, so then I can add on. Hopefully people understand. Anything else there? We all wished Noah never went to that party with those weapons and whatnot, the guns and firearms. My question is, Justin Roy, out of all the parties which Noah Presgrove has attended before this last one, weeks before, months before, years before, and with tagging along with Caden Pressey, in which Caden witnessed Noah walk off at times or often when drunk. Out of all those other parties in the past, which may have not been reported by as many, out of all those parties in the past which did not lead to death, how many of them had underage drinking and more so the involvement of firearms? Was there as much outrage then as there is nowadays? Maybe not. But let's just move on with Jan's response. Jan Ledford Fiorillo says, how this has been twisted to become about anyone other than the victim and his family suffering or getting to the truth of what happened is unfathomable. How there is no remorse from those responsible or their families for creating and contributing to the high-risk environment that resulted in the death of their friend is also unconcealable. Self-preservation and me is what this BS is all about, and it's socially unacceptable and unscrupulous. Okay, we're using some fancy words here. Interesting. What I will say first of all, though, Jan Fiorillo mentions it about how, anyone other than the victim, Noah, and his family, the ones truly suffering. And yet Justin Roy says here, Noah Presgrove is the only victim, as in Noah's family are not victims. And I know what people be thinking, oh, Warlike Raf, Justin didn't mean that. I'm interpreting it from language and wording exactly what I see and read on screen. If you say Noah is the only victim, that means one singular person, and it does not include Noah's family. But obviously, the victim's family, as it's been referenced and mentioned in news articles and whatnot, more than one victim. So just me being me when it comes to language and wording, Noah isn't the only victim. There is more than one victim. And Jan Fiorillo touches upon that here. In regard to how there is no remorse from their families, I guess the Milland family, the Howard family, the Newton family, is that what we're regarding here? Is that because on the surface level publicly there's not been any remorse, or that's how it's been interpreted as? I mean, I'm sure the dark side and the families may have things to say in response. I wouldn't have seen everything because I spent most of the time on the light side in the past, as you would know. But I know when it came to that Netflix documentary, that's where the real tension started, right, Jan? With certain people in the case and the likes of Brooke Bounds-Carter. And then that post made by Jan about inquiring about Netflix. Is it a good idea to be doing it when you got these four hosts, what they've done, what they're responsible for, and the party a week beforehand, and how that was reported, called into the police, and no action taken? Don't worry, Jan, I haven't forgotten about that. But you know what's important? I asked time and time again, and in general, in the videos, what's that in regard to reporting it to police? Who by? What neighbour? Why did they report it? Right? If it was down to social hosting laws being broken a week before the party of Noah's death, okay, fair enough. Whoever did that, consistent, possibly. If that was actually followed up, then the party, Avery's birthday one, the Labour Day one, wouldn't have happened, or there'd been tighter restrictions, and Noah would still be alive till this day. You could say it like that, but in reality, it just didn't happen. It all comes down to, though, and we'll get onto it later with what Jan has to say in regard to me, is when was action taken when it was too late, pretty much. But it's not like 100% set in stone like that. I did use additional words, but clearly people haven't acknowledged it. Anyone else watching in the chat and watching about, do you think that other families, the Newtons, the Millans, the Combs, the Howards, whatever, have they shown no remorse whatsoever? Have they shown remorse in the background, more so on the surface level? People may show remorse in different ways. I think what's somewhat important as a measuring tool is it's not so much what the general public think, but more so the family, the victim's family of Noah Presgrove, if they have been in contact with Brooke Bounds Carter or Caleb Newton or Renee Millan, people like that and beyond, because there are still other party goers in this case in which the parents haven't interjected themselves within the case, and we've never heard of those names, the fathers and mothers, etc. They've kept a low profile. Is that for the better? Has it worked out? Maybe, maybe not. I'm sorry, there's not been any criticisms by people in general saying, these are the party goers, what Mikey Leb, what Brylan Sweat, anyone else, Isaac Rojas, and anyone else in between. Those parents haven't been brought up. Those parents aren't saying anything. So, let's complain and have a go there. Or, everybody reacts differently. And that's all that can be said at this moment in time. If we just move on, Justin responds to Jen and says, there's absolutely no remorse from any of them. Once again, I kind of understand what Justin is referring to here in regard to whom exactly, and the different groups, the Newtons, the Howards, the Millan family. That's what Justin appears to be getting at here, but if it is in regard to the Millan family, absolutely no remorse from them. Is there not certain family from Justin's side married into the Millan family? Would that make them not remorseful or care? See, once again, I know Justin isn't getting at that, but when people go over language and wording sentences, you could pick it up and, suggest it and think, I wonder what it could mean. Not for it to be twisted, but just to show how when you use vague language, it can make it very flexible and open to interpretation. That might be the best way of putting it there. Justin says, what we are seeing is entitlement. None of these people feel bad for anything they have done because they are used to it, sadly. Right, none of these people. Is that in regard to partygoers only or anyone else in between? I mean, how it could be interpreted here by Justin Roy is even the likes of the partygoers such as Jasmine Millan, in which Justin highlighted previously that Jasmine had mental health issues and tried to commit suicide at one point, that someone like them, who's obviously not a victim, who's obviously not been impacted by the case or the community whatsoever, that they're showing no remorse whatsoever either. Yeah, this is where it starts going very dark very quickly. But it needs to be, just used as an example for a starting point of communication. I'll try and add it on later if I remember to. Justin says, they know exactly what happened to Noah, and somehow they're trying to turn it around on him, his family, or anyone that supports him or wants truth and justice for Noah. LE is just letting this continue to wonder why. And they wonder why everyone thinks some type of corruption has happened. I don't see how these people can threaten, slander, harass, manipulate, lie, deflect, gaslight, then turn around and then threaten everyone with lawsuits. These people are sickening. Of course, they know exactly what happened to Noah. But you know what the interesting thing is, Justin? The reference of suing people left, right, and centre. Besides the dark side, what about that person in between, Travis Davidson, that was going around saying to everyone, including me, Donna Bond, and everyone else in between, that they were going to sue him all over the place? What the hell was that for? whilst yes, we can focus in on the dark side and what they are supposedly like or what they've done in the past, what about people who may not be on a specific side, but they're still within the community, and they're just as problematic, if not worse? What are they doing their actions for? What's their motive behind it? And then you might have someone like Pam Feldman Garrison and Jan Fiorillo working alongside the odd problematic person out there. So, independent groups, subcells forming. What's that all about? And certain behaviours over there. That's questionable too. Let's just continue on. This one's interesting, and this one as well, which we can analyse separately. But, just in to say, the only Snapchat video I saw of that night with the partying, I'm guessing Sunday night, were of Noah Presgrove dancing, and one of him appeared to play beer pong. Definitely not my house nor my party, and I did not see what Noah was drinking. But again, they invited everyone, they threw the birthday party. Now, of course, from what we're seeing with the autopsy report, it said that Noah had, the alcohol levels, was drunk. So there's that as evidence to say there was alcohol present, of course. But yeah, to say, it's just interesting how it's worded here. Yes, I saw footage of the party, but it's not my house and it's not my party. Other people would interpret that as, well, then it's not your business then, so why are you making it your business now? Why are you stepping over the line now? Why are you pushing the social hosting laws now when you may have not done so before? And this isn't even your party, as you acknowledge. That's not coming from me directly, but that's exactly what other people would be using against Justin Roy when it comes to what's presented on screen here. To say that I did not see what Noah was drinking sounds like how Caden said, I did not see who Noah was talking to when reaching out for a ride back home. As in, you only see a part of the events unfolding at the time. You may not know the full picture. That's not to downplay or to dismiss Justin, but just as a comparison tool, and that is all. But my opinions about this, in terms of, in general speaking, it's interesting, and I'll give you my thoughts now. I could break it down line by line, but then it wouldn't be as raw and natural. I'm just going to say that what comes to my mind and what I've learned with time is that I think the reason why people are pushing the concept of there is only one victim, because the possibility of, if there are any other victims, it's taking it away from Noah Presgrove himself, that other people along the way, whether that be the community or within the case, or those attached with those in the case, like parents of parents, guardians, friends and whatnot, if they ever classified themselves as victims, it's like taking away, overshadowing what's really important. But at the end of the day, any form of physical, mental, psychological suffering is important, whether that be on the surface level or deeper within, whether it be expressed openly or people suffer in silence. There can always be more than one victim. And for as long as the case is active, open and ongoing, things can happen with time, bad stuff, and I guess that's what we've seen. Now, in no particular order, and maybe I can throw some names out there in regard to who is a victim and who isn't, but I don't want to be too selective. I'm only just basing it off from my knowledge. There might be more victims as well out there that haven't spoken out, or it's not as known of, but people in the comments section, you can always drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts in regard to what you think or how you may feel in the case. See, with Noah Presgrove, I do agree that he is the original victim. The whole reason why this case exists is because of what happened to Noah Presgrove. And then from there on then, as the case is open and things are trying to be solved or worked out, people along the way can become victims if they're prone to being attacked, questioned, harassed, threatened, gaslighted from any angle or direction, regardless of what side you're on. You might be a victim within the case or a victim within the community, a victim to harassment, a victim to doxing, a victim to false claims made. It's where Being a victim is when you're on the receiving end of something negative which has caused some kind of harm to you in some way. So anyone can be a victim in a genuine way. There will be exceptions, of course, just in general in life, where people can portray themselves as victims, but in a manipulative way in order to gain a level of favor, in order to gain a level of sympathy, so they can be treated better when it comes to judgment, when it comes to a trial, maybe like in a case, a person may start looking sad. Look back to the Dylan Rounds case, the murderer James Brenner, who was hobbling about when walking into the courtroom and looked kind of sad. Was that playing for the cameras, playing a sympathy card in hopes of people witnessing and watching in the background would take that in note and feel sorry for the killer? So it might get a more reduced, lesser sentence. Who knows? Emotional manipulation there can happen with time. But in particular, with the Noah Presgrove case, you could argue and say anyone, such as like with the party goers that may have been present at the highway to witness someone, and for most, someone that they knew, somewhat friends with, see them dead on the side of the highway and how they looked as well. That can obviously scar people's minds. Just the thought of death, but then actually seeing it, and then the brutality of it as well. Different components, it can torture your mind with time. That can apply to Caden Pressey, for example. It can apply to Isaac Rojas. Does it apply to Mikey Lair? It depends, doesn't it, based off Caden's timeline and then that Snapchat post which showed him at the house when Caden said he was at the highway. So it's a bit unsure about that person. But Brylan Sweat, Isaac Rojas, who supposedly were at the highway, with Caden basing it off that timeline at least, with what they saw and how they responded, being upset in the moment, and then onwards, is going to have a lasting mark and impression on the people's minds all the time, or here and there, and there might be some trigger points too. Going to take in consideration that if Mikey Lair was at the highway at any point to witness Noah's body, and to be upset by it from what Caden had said, Mikey Lair already was dealing with PTSD of whatever that was. So on top of issues, more issues, being a victim to a traumatic event, right? Memory problems, recollection issues, Caden's timeline not quite working out or being consistent and having discrepancies. Any explanation for that? Well, maybe like with other partygoers, trauma impacting memory, recollections, which some may have acknowledged with time and ever since, oh, no, we're not acknowledging it now. I mean, how strict are we going to get? Are we going to go as strict as, like what I was suggesting recently about the social hosting laws being followed upon? Right, outrage now, but not as much outrage in the past before Noah's death. So, like with the whole victim situation, Noah Presgrove, the victim, the only victim. Well, if that's the case, then what does that mean for Noah Presgrove's family? They're not victims whatsoever. Are we going to be strict like that with that wording from what people have said recently? If there is only one victim, then that means Caden Pressey is not a victim whatsoever and nothing bad has happened to him whatsoever. You can see the outrage, what would be caused there. Because the light side, Team Caden Pressey, would be very, likely in support of Caden and back him up and say, you know what, Caden has been attacked, harassed, insulted, gaslighted in regard to Stevie, Brooke and whoever else onwards. Caden has been threatened by Jack Newton through that Snapchat convo. Tell me the story once again and tell me it properly before I get upset and things like that. So that pressure on Caden there, having to put up with it. Oh, he's not a victim. No, but he is. He really is, because what he's been through and how he's been attacked. So a victim of harassment, a victim of some kind of intimidation. Okay. But some of these people that would be agreeing or pushing that concept may be in line with recent discussions, what we're seeing now, as in Noah is the only victim, meaning no one else is. People would have, to an extent, some people may have contradicted themselves there. And kind of like how Justin mentioned, Noah is the only victim. Does that mean Justin's daughter is not a victim whatsoever? and everything's okay, nothing bad happened to her. That's in defense of Justin Roy, but also putting it in perspective of his language and wording, which doesn't acknowledge it to that extent, if you get what I'm saying. Whilst Justin's daughter is not a part of the case, they indirectly got involved, not directly by themselves, but by other people, conversations, then reposting or resharing, and then putting it out there in public, in perspective, partially because Justin Roy was asking to see proof of it online, right? And then Justin said, how could you post that stuff? Well, it needs to be posted somehow, right? If that's what you want. Of course, if it needed to be posted privately towards Justin, that would have been the best action, but it was not clarified or mentioned by Justin himself at any point. And I'm not wording as in I am the, poster of it in the first place. Damage was already done by supposedly other people posting it here or there on different pages, right? When I came across it, damage limitation, putting it into perspective, mentioning the positives, the negatives, the situation with the daughter, that they're innocent, they've been dragged in, zero lacking context, bit of a misunderstanding, and people caught in a crossfire, a level of collateral damage in different ways possible, and even the Jasmine Millan situation of it being brought up about their mental health, about the suicide situation. Is that from the case itself? Is that from the community with time? Because if it was, you could say, because of the events which happened on the day of Noah Presgrove's death, hearing about that, and then what followed onwards with possible messages online, harassment or negativity, caused or enhanced what Jasmine Millan was experiencing, hence going through very dark moments with time. Oh, that doesn't make them a victim then? No, it's just all normal that. Yeah, if you're suicidal, oh what, whatever. That is the mentality people could have if they believe that Noah is the only victim and no one else is. But if damage has been done because of the case and onwards during the case, then, other people caught within it, whether it be some kind of physical issue, psychological issue, then leading to the decline of their health, they can be a victim to a specific action, which causes specific damage, okay? Directly tied with the case on the day or onwards. It still runs in parallel. The case, open investigation, going the same way. So how I would word it is, in no specific order, Noah Presgrove is the original victim. Justin's daughter is a victim caught up within it all. Jasmine Millan is a victim. Avery Combs, also known as Avery Howard, supposedly, is a victim as well. And what we've seen in recent time, it would suggest that with the blasting of one's location, maybe publicly, if there's any additional context as well onwards to highlight it further, then who else would be considered a victim in some way? JJ Bumpers being dragged in by certain covens that had it in for JJ and were a little fixated thinking that, yeah, he is responsible in some way, he is the murderer, he knows stuff, he has footage. The Dina Rose situation, the coven over there, the hype train, and it all fell flat in the end. People really pushing it there. I think there was Vanessa Salazar too, but it's not just exclusive to some named individuals. There'll be many other people as well, which have either drifted out with time or have branched out elsewhere onto other communities and pages. But I do remember it roughly, the heavy focus on JJ Bumpers. I was looking at it to try and put into perspective a few weeks ago, a month, when we came across Caden Pressey and JJ Bumpers in that live chat of my video premiere, which was obviously very useful and helpful. At the time of doing that, JJ clearing some things up, Caden Pressey acknowledging some stuff, and it seemed somewhat positive in a way, but there was a bit of a dysfunction. As in, when it came to Caden Pressey said the day after Noah Presgrove's death, or a day after that, 1 or 2 days after, hung out with JJ Bumpers for a few hours, I believe, at a lake, as like a distraction to cool off, and it does make sense. But JJ Bumpers within the same chat was saying to Caden, no, it wasn't a day or two after Noah's death. It was supposedly on the same day, but later on in the day. So you could say it's because, Caden Pressey was at the party house and then left at 7 in the morning with the guys, leaving. And then the police came round and Caden wasn't there. And then Caden decided to hang out with JJ onwards. But JJ, JJ says that. You could interpret it. Caden says, no, it wasn't on that day. It was the day after or the day after that. It's just a bit broken in communication. But nevertheless, I just thought I'd just bring in JJ's name because he did get dragged in at some point. Jack Newton, has he been a victim in some way? I can't say too much there because I've just not seen personally the actual damage and the, like when one is on the receiving end, if that makes sense. And there's been a lot of questioning and a lot of pushing. I mean, you could say Jack Newton has been a victim to people boldly stating he is the murderer at a time of when there was no evidence to support it, hard evidence-based. Has that changed since? Who knows? But, I'm just regarding to a specific point in time. So, let's just say, if Jack Newton is 100% innocent and those claims made along the way, you could say Jack Newton was, if we're talking in the future, retrospectively looking back now and back then, is that Jack Newton was a victim to, I guess, slanderous claims of some sort, just as an example, right? See, now Presgrove is the victim, as in he was one that he died or may have been killed. And then onwards, people would be victims to, in the moment of what they've seen, what they've experienced, and how it's impacted them, making them a victim to something, stimuli that has caused damage to them physically or psychologically. And it seems like for most part of it, a range of different people are victims in ways more so the psychological effect damaging people. Can you be a victim to something because of a bad action and you're on the receiving end of, but you don't actually feel pain, you don't suffer, you're still technically a victim? Of course, what also needs to be acknowledged though, not everybody will see themselves as victims. Some people may not like to be referred to or called a victim or be labelled that with whatever they've experienced in this case or just in general at any point in time. Because being labelled as that may serve as a constant reminder where you may feel trapped, where you're always reminded of, oh, you're a victim, oh yeah, because of this and that in the past, so you can't move forwards. And that's why some people may not want to be called or labelled that. Other people may find it a little bit patronising. And then some people in between may just not think that they're a victim whatsoever, because if there was a level of deep damage done, it might have brainwashed or convinced them that whatever bad happened to them is because they deserved it or were asking for it. But obviously that's not the case. But in their mind at the time, that's their rational thoughts with the damage caused by the hands of somebody else or some people, which have made them think that way. And maybe with time stuff changes. But you could argue and say points made with what we just looked at recent about there is only one victim, no one else is shown any remorse, no one else is suffering, case closed, that's it. You could say that's somewhat ignorant in a way. Not everybody may display what they're like or the moment they're in. Just so happens that when it came to Caden Pressey, which was mentioned by Alicia Lee in the Partners in True Crime Part 2 interview, which was never publicly released but later leaked elsewhere. Alicia mentioned how Caden Pressey was seeking therapy, counselling, or just therapy, a therapist, or a psychologist, whichever one, psychiatrist. Why? Because of the case, because of what he saw at the highway, how it damaged him, broke him, and it would show the damage caused from it. And I guess the last known contact between Caden and Noah, as in wanting a ride home, and hence why Caden had said on the odd occasion and in some interview that it eats him up, it tears him up inside, knowing that he could have driven Noah home and Noah would still be alive till this day. But obviously, Caden, when torturing himself in regard to that, it's understandable, but Caden isn't to blame for that because at the time Caden was being responsible because of drinking. One couldn't drive, of course, didn't want to get in trouble with the police again. And, furthermore, in the moment, you're not going to know what's going to happen next. If you did know, then maybe you might bend a rule or two for the sake of keeping someone alive. But at the time, you're not going to know. And then when you look back retrospectively, you can blame yourself more. And for the person that's blaming themselves or their mind torturing themselves, they can't help it. It is what it is in the moment. That's why you need an outside force of people or perspectives to try and remind them that they're not to blame or that they don't need to be too hard on themselves. Of course, it's always easier for the non-sufferers or the ones on the outside looking in to be able to be some kind of voice of reason just because they can in the moment, because it's not them. And that's why it's needed, just like how most cases are needed where people won't have a really deep emotional connection within the case or to anyone. So then you can think more openly. It's not about being some kind of cold psychopath. It's just about being able to think more, do more, and apply more, especially at times when people tied within or trapped within just can't, if that makes sense. Like when it comes to Noah Presgrove's family and certain family members, what they may say or think or act at times, like with Robin Smith's situation in the past September 17, 2023, with that Facebook Messenger convo with Donna Bond, that specific situation, when it comes to who's in the right, who's in the wrong, it doesn't show Robin Smith in a good positive light, of course, because of the actions then blasting the location of Avery as a form of intimidation that can cause damage to Avery in a way. It could also just push back a person of interest, meaning it's harder to track and, understand where they're at, and bridges burnt down and communication being lost. Then that has a negative impact on the online perspective of the general public, who then lose the opportunity to be able to learn about the case because people have been pushed away too far and they'll never come back. If there is like blasting and more on top of that, and more threats or more forceful or harassment, such as towards Avery or Jasmine or Carter, the pressure could get to them and it could wear down on them, psychological effect. But in the moment, with what we looked at recently with Robin Smith, due to what they were feeling and experiencing themselves, member of Noah Presgrove's family, victim's family member, of course, they're going to be suffering as well. So in the heat of the moment, when they're not quite thinking clear, they may lash out, or there might be a post here or there where it triggers them because, they can live their lives, move on, but this person's nephew can't, or this person's son can't. So it's like, how dare you, because you're not communicating, or you supposedly aren't, and look at you here smiling and it's all nice. No, I can't do that. And then that's what triggers it in the moment. Emotional reaction, some kind of irrational thoughts, but rational to the person at the time with what they think's best and what needs to be done. So in the moment, that makes sense. But then someone like Donna Bond could be a victim within the community case in regard to being threatened at points or times, supposedly, or being threatened with some kind of legal action and suing at one point by Travis Davidson. You could be on the receiving end of that. But in the moment earlier on in the case with Robin Smith and that conversation, Donna Bond should or could have been more the voice of reason. You got Robin Smith, a vulnerable person in a vulnerable place at the time, acting the way they are and saying what they say because they think that's what's needed. And then Donna Bond, instead of saying yes, will do, or yes, probably a good idea, and yeah, blast it, possibly, whether Donna took direct action in blasting it or not, it was almost like encouraging Robin to say, yeah, you're thinking correctly, you're doing the right stuff, yeah, do it. But what Donna Bond probably should have said was, I can understand, Robin, you're suffering, you're sad, because you haven't got enough answers, and these partygoers or former partygoers appear to be moving on or having a good time, but are they really? Or are they just doing it as a distraction? What about Caden Pressey, where he's at? And then at a later point, oh, he's on vacation. Is he allowed to or not? Should we blast his location? No? So why should we blast Avery only? Or Jasmine? Is that a form of collateral damage? I mean, take in mind, it was much earlier on, only so many days after Noah's death, so it's understandable why emotions would be very raw for Robin Smith specifically. But if Donna Bond, and I wouldn't know completely, but if Donna Bond wasn't as emotionally impacted by what's happened, but was there for Robin Smith as a friend or to some capacity, shouldn't have been encouraging a vulnerable person to act out and, push in an unnatural way. Because if you kind of sense or have a feeling that this person, the way they're acting, it's very dark or it sounds very bad, what they're going to do, and it could paint them in a bad light in the future. In the moment, they might be thinking that, but down the line, they might not be, or they might change, or they could later regret it. So in the moment, could contain them, make sure that they don't do anything that they may regret later. So then it'll protect themselves with time, and then it can protect the case and any people of interest along the way. But it seems like Donna Bond didn't quite do that. I think Jan Fiorillo, I'm not too sure if I've looked at the comment yet or not, or that might be later on in the video. Jan Fiorillo does mention about Donna Bond, but it depends how you look at it in regards to how it's worded there, because I do have some side counterpoints to mention. But I think there is more than one victim in this case. In regard to the open, active investigation, there were multiple victims. In terms of the day of Noah's death, Noah being the main victim, but the people that witnessed it, to some extent, or more so the after effects, up close and hearing about the news, you could say kind of a victim. But like I said, the reason why people may push it about the victim situation, who is and who isn't, who's qualified and who isn't, is just because people feel, oh, you're a victim, or you claim to be a victim, you're taking the focus away from who really is, you're taking the focus away from what's important at hand, the Noah Presgrove case. I think you could argue and say there's bigger issues than that, and that is the typical drama scenarios of just general public, how they interject and how they appear and behave at times. And whilst you will have people trying to work on the case and other people trying to cover the case and learn about it and try and spread awareness, such as myself, and then certain members of the general public, maybe from Facebook or from further afar, some jumping on, trying to cause me some trouble or trying to slow things down or just be problematic in general, that's kind of taken away from the case. People have the cheek to say to me, you're making a mockery of the case, Raf, and you're not doing it professional. And some of these same said individuals aren't even in a place to be talking in the first place, and they've not contributed that much, if not none at all, if it's specifically talking about YouTube in terms of channels, coverage, awareness, and whatnot. And some of the people along the way that can be extra critical and beyond, and it's like, well, you say what you say, you do what you do, if you think you can do better, but they end up not doing anything at all, besides yapping gum. So there's that too. Let's just head on over, well, what we'll just mention just briefly before we get onto the next slide, like with Justin Roy's comment about, I wasn't there at the party, of course. I saw some Snapchat clips. My family were down there at the time up to a certain point. Fair enough, just like it can apply to other people and partygoers or parents or guardians more so, or friends. Justin Roy said, this is not my party. It's, I'm not there. And you can interpret it as, well, if it's not your party, it's not your thing, then is it your business to get involved in regard to just that point? As said, lines like this can be very triggering for people, but sometimes got to get dark and realistic. In fairness with Justin Roy, to have family members that were down there at the party and then being able to relay information and learn that way, it's important. So that's how Justin will know things other people won't know. just because of having people he does know who were there to witness certain stuff. Why? But I guess the other factor being, even if you're not related to Noah by blood, if you're like a friend or somewhat close to Noah to some capacity, there's a motive, there's a reason to fight and push for example, justice, the truth and whatnot. If you're a complete random person, a member of the general public, you've never known who Noah is, you've never been friends with Noah, you're not connected with him, you could say, well, why are you pushing it so far and going in too deep? What's going on there? Of course, that particular questioning could be aimed towards me because I don't know Noah, I'm not connected, I'm not by blood, none of that whatsoever, not even from the same country. But I think the obvious counterpoint would be, because I am a content creator, I do true crime coverage, hence I'm covering this case and how I can cover others along the way. It's quite self-explanatory, fairly simple, but maybe some people forget about that perspective. But besides that, let's just move on to what another person had to say. This comment in particular highlighted from, as you see, the last video that I did, their username called Lil Weed Nugget. Interesting name. They say, the difference is one was at a party where their friend was murdered and still hasn't been helpful and clearly is drinking when not supposed to. The other was simply asking where a person was. It is sick you are implying that these liars were in any danger or trouble. It'd be wonderful if the self-proclaimed only person covering Noah's story, known as Warlight Raf, would stop spreading BS drama around and share actual updates or findable facts. So I'm guessing Lil Weed Nugget may have been under the influence when typing this comment out, because they've clearly failed to comprehend and do their research on my channel with previous coverage and findings. See, maybe some people see the possible dark reality, the dark truth or dark possible evidence as drama. And people that call it drama may be using it as a coping mechanism because it's too raw for people here and there. But we'll break it down bit by bit this, right? So you're saying the difference is one. Who is one? You mean Noah Presgrove was at a party where their friend? Who's their friend? See, because how we've interpreted it, Carter Combs has said, well, I don't really know Noah Presgrove that well. How well does Avery know Noah? How well does Jasmine know Noah? Probably more so with Jasmine, from what we've seen historically speaking. But, you know, it's just not great language to begin with. He, she, he, they, their. It's just not clear. Use names or use initials whilst you're typing it up, right? Still hasn't been helpful. Who hasn't been helpful? You're not making any sense. Are you regarding to Avery has not been helpful, but then you see them at a place having a good time? They're not allowed to? Should they not, because of them being responsible or guilty tied within the case, that they need to sit down, talk more openly towards the family, besides cooperating with the police in the background? Is that what you're referring to, Nugget? I just don't know, because it's just not clear enough. The other was simply asking where a person was. What does the other mean? The other was asking where the person was. Are you regarding to Robin Smith there, or are you regarding to Donna Bond? It's just lacking. It's piss poor language and wording. It's not great, is it? You know, for Robin Smith to say deep pockets and then follow it up with blessed her location. Blessed sounds explosive. For it to be heard by many and seen like an explosion of fireworks openly. Blessed can come across as in you're going to bless somebody's name, bless their location so other people see, to spread awareness, but also to show a bit of intimidation. I did say how one can interpret it. I did mention positives and tried understanding it from Robin's perspective, how she was feeling in the moment, but clearly, Nugget, you got tunnel vision, selective mindset, selective hearing, vision and whatnot, but you just completely ignore what I had said there in terms of the balanced aspect, and you focus in on only a one-sided part of what had supposedly been said. You're not in a position to be talking much, to be honest with you. What else? Nugget says, Warlight Ref, it's sick that you're implying that these liars were in danger or trouble. Well, the thing is, Nugget, at least at the time and from that material that we saw, Avery, Jasmine, they weren't saying that they were in danger specifically towards that, but the video that I did myself individually, I said, could they be? Were they in trouble? Was that event part of the supposed bad stuff that happened to them onwards or not? It was a discussion. There was a question mark in the title of the video. Nugget, you're failing to understand language and wording like how some other people have done so. It's very unfortunate, right? And what else do we have? It'd be good if Warlight Raf would stop spreading drama. What? So when there's actual evidence to show a different side of the story of people acting in questionable ways, that's just considered drama. But then when it's on the flip side and the dark side is shown in a negative light, oh, that's not drama, that's just truth. Oh no, this is so one-sided. This is very, very one-sided, very disappointing to see. So stuff you may not agree with because the truth is very dark and cold at times, you'll just dismiss it and call it drama as a coping mechanism. That's what humans have done with time. Just like the reference of when you get bad people in life that do bad things to good people, the reality is good people can be worse off. Bad people that do bad actions can be better off in life. But what people always like to jump to is those that are negative and do and say and act in nasty ways. Yes, it's bad what they're doing and other people suffer, but these bad people are suffering themselves. They've got no life, they've got no one, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't always work out like that. There will be people, victims, those on the receiving end who may not have much, who may have not experienced much in life, and yet they're still always on the receiving end by bad people, and those bad people are better off, have done more, seen more, experienced more. But that reference doesn't get acknowledged because at times delusional positive people will use the comfort blanket method to make the positive people in a worse off situation feel better about themselves or towards the situation of being on the receiving end of a bad person. It's done out of care, which is a positive, but it's just not realistic enough, right? And, pretty much it. The mention of implying that Nugget says Warlight Raf hasn't really shared any actual updates or facts, anything of interest directly within the case, and so I guess when we looked at what Victor Presgrove had to say about confirming himself, Noah Presgrove's father, that Noah didn't reach out to him about having a lift, wanting a lift home, but people in the community and those online were pushing that idea and concept either because of a misinterpretation or through Chinese whispers, and then others nodding their head. Yes, men, yes, women. That's not important. That's not factual based from the horse's mouth from Noah's father, confirming that no call was made by Noah at the time of the party wanting to lift home. That doesn't matter, even though I covered it on my channel. In terms of the Snapchat post at different times, which have filled in certain grey areas which were never seen, released before, that doesn't count, that doesn't matter. Nugget, either you've not done your research or you've just been very petty and selective just because of one video which you don't like with what's been said, and then everything else before that which may have been okay, reasonable, just completely dismissed in a matter of seconds. This is what humans tend to do towards me, to a small extent, minority, but is very consistent, the patterns and behavioural changes in the shift. It's disappointing, but what can you do about it? So, moving on, just gets better. We got Jan Ledford Fiorillo with a lot to say, and I'm going to read it all out as best as I can. I've had to take multiple screenshots because it was absolutely impossible to fill it out on the whole screen. If I had a tablet device like an iPad, I might have been able to screenshot half of it at least. But, just feel free to listen along with what Jan had to say. Of course, previously, Jan Fiorillo had said that she was walking away from this channel because she kind of had enough and gone elsewhere, branched off, but, they're still here, or they've returned back, but here's what it is. Jan says, in regard to my video last night, wow, to say that no one cares about social hosting laws of Oklahoma until a death resulted is extremely biased and an uneducated statement. How is it biased? Well, this law was created after years of research and evidence to then go through rigorous process to become law to avoid exactly what happened. But was it avoided? No. And were reports made beforehand to previous parties nearby? Yes or no? That's the main question. And yes, we know these parties at this house have been previously reported to LE. See Donna Bond. See, that is what I was asking. Jan, we don't need to go into a full-length explanation or some kind of autobiography. All we need to do is just look back at previous questions and answer them. And several times that's what I did and there was no answer. But there is now, and that's what was needed, right? It's not that difficult. In regard to that particular house being reported, you say, how many times though? Previously reported. But how many? These parties, more than one at that particular house. See, Jan Fiorillo seems to fail to remember the time of when I did my video highlighting her comment in regard to the Netflix documentary, which was supposed to be coming about. And Jan in the post said, should you be doing that? Is it a good idea? And then talking it from the different perspectives and aspects. I think mention of the boating accident in the past as well, which got up some of the parents' victim back there 2020 at the Warwicker Lake. But that aside, in terms of the party host, four of which was Carter, Avery, I think Logan and Jack Newton, as what Jan highlighted and mentioned how a weekend before this party there was another one and it was reported, but Jan did not give the name of the individual that reported it at the time. When I did my video onwards and a few other times onwards and questioning it over and over again, there was no answer. And if there's no answer, there won't be the full context, hence why it leads to the videos that I do and what I say. But, Jan, you can't have it both ways. Hopefully you understand that now. But I did say, and I probably can add it on once again later to highlight the importance, is that there may be the exception of some people beforehand of the final party who may have reported it beforehand and on several occasions because of issues with the social hosting laws, and those that did, consistent, and credit to them. I gave credit to them without actually knowing who those named individuals were, but I still highlighted the possibility that they do exist out there. Jan is kind of suggesting here that, yes, they do exist out there, and for what I said in my video is very biased and uneducated view and somewhat impetuous, and there's no need for any of that because at the end of the day, I already acknowledged people and Jan has just looked right past that. But let's just continue on. Much like DUI, driver's first offence is misdemeanour, but once the death results whilst driving under the influence, it becomes a completely different legal matter with more severe consequences and receives a completely different response of outrage from the public. The public doesn't get outraged over DUIs, but they damn sure do when someone dies as a result. Same concept applies here with regards to the public's response to felony social hosting that results in death. And then the bit down there, which will be on to here, yes, And to add, Oklahoma's social hosting laws holds all the residents and property owners legally responsible for providing a location for underage drinking. Residents were not just Avery Howard, but also included Carter Combs, Logan Jernigan, who were also responsible for the guest at the home. But that's already been acknowledged, and we've highlighted that before. So, the party, along with underage drinking, driving, side-by-sides, ATVs, hunting, extended onto the location owned by the landowner or owners of the acreage as well. It can be proven that the property owners of the house and the lot to which the house sits on had any prior knowledge of this party that included drinking with underage guests. They too could be held responsible and liable under this law. Criminal charges and who gets charged are up to the discretion of the prosecutor representing the state of Oklahoma and what evidence the LE investigation provides for them to prosecute the charges. Okay. My response was, Jan, you have clearly failed to listen to where I mentioned that there will be some who would have reported it regardless in the past, and credit to them for being consistent. And then I said some other stuff. Jan responds, there is nothing wrong with my hearing, nor is my hearing selective. But Jan, you did say your eyesight isn't as good as what it used to be. And that's just a reference to some conversation elsewhere. So my memory is on point. So not sure how you jumped to qualify your remark as clearly failed. Lol, clearly failed based on what? Your defensive assumption. No, Jan, you clearly failed to actually listen to my video at the time, just like how you might have done on previous occasions as well, or more so in the future if you do stick around, because what I mentioned above, you still failed to acknowledge it now. Clearly selective in mindset. It's self-explanatory. What I've mentioned above is what I also mentioned in my video. You did not listen to that part. You only listened to the part where I said most people probably wouldn't give a damn or wouldn't have taken action previously. That's all you focus in on because it sounds more shocking, it sounds more negative and controversial. So that's what sticks in one's mind, and anything that's said after that, we'll ignore it. And that's the problem. So, what does that mean? Warlike Ref has to say all the right things which people want to hear first, and then later add on the points which people may disagree with. Do it in that order to please people. No. There is a process to it. But let's just continue reading. Jan, I watched the video up until you made the comment, but let's just make it very clear, if Noah Presgrove never died at this so-called party, which breaks social hosting laws and rules, no one would give a damn about it, just like previous parties beforehand, and there might be an exception of some locals that did try reporting it, and that was about all the time I had for that. Well, at least you managed to watch to an extent up to the point of where I mentioned about, and there'd be some locals that might have actually taken action, and credit to them. Is that not good enough? So you're still failing to understand what I was getting at in regard to there will be exceptions with people, before the actual party that have taken action other times. You've in a way re-quoted it yourself, and you still don't see that. There is clearly some kind of language barrier here or a breakdown in communication, and maybe I can try and make it a little bit clearer afterwards. Let's continue on. Before I left, I made a comment addressing social hosting laws of Oklahoma. Did any of the content in my comment matter to you or give you some broader perspective? That was my intention. Are you aware of the years of research and intentions behind creating social hosting laws? Are you aware that binge drinking is 30% higher at large social parties of 6 or more where underage drinking occurs, which also increases risk exponentially? Are you aware that since enacting social hosting laws that underage DUI traffic deaths have decreased by 9%? That is just the decrease in traffic death and does not include other deaths related to social host parties such as ATV accidents, alcohol poisoning, pool, lake, river, ocean drownings. We're talking about the Warwicker 2020 lake accident where Caleb Newton, being the boat driver, and that 7-year-old girl falling into the water, Jan Fiorillo, without mentioning the name, I believe, mentioned that example or event when it came to a post on Facebook some months ago in regard to the response in the Netflix documentary. And then the parents of the victim, of the girl, said to Jan, how dare you do that, stop using her name or mentioning it. So it clearly got some people's backs up there, if you remember that, Jan Fiorillo. What else do we have? Do you know that driving whilst under the influence was not against the law at one point in time, or that DUI per se laws weren't enacted and drunk driving did not become illegal in all 50 states in the US until 1988? It took 70 years to wake up to the realization. Do you know that, yeah, okay, we saw that, 70 years, yeah. Safety Council began studying and addressing the issue. The well-known advocacy group MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, who advocated for stricter drinking laws, successfully lobbied for the passage of the National Minimum Drinking Age Act in 1984, which raised the legal drinking age to 21 nationwide. Progress is slow, but when we know better, we are supposed to do better. People still don't adhere to safety belt laws, and even though we know it saves lives and some still pay the consequences with the life, social host laws were enacted to save lives. Of course. Andrew, because we are aware of the risk these underage drinking parties create and the consequences for victims and ultimate suffering for their families. Well, there is another factor which we could take in mind shortly. Progress is slow, but when we know better, we're supposed to do better. Yeah, okay. It just cuts over from screenshot to screenshot because it's that long. Consequences for the victims and ultimate suffering for the families. Social host, indeed suffering some type of consequence as a result of the choice. But they're alive. Families are getting to enjoy them and watch their future unfold. Noah is dead. He suffered the maximum consequence. Noah's family endures the pain and suffering daily and will never be okay. Finding the truth of what happened is the only thing that can offer them. Please measure of peace. Be mindful of that, please. And it goes on to the next one. Be mindful that the social host and their families have offered very little answers to Noah's family, nor have they shown any remorse or regret for providing multiple locations for underage drinking for multiple days that resulted in a guest death. They have instead victim-shamed Noah and maligned some of his family members, all whilst pleading for sympathy for these social hosts by parents, family, friends, who blames everybody else but themselves for the public perception of them. Even the parents, grandpa, were unwilling to provide Noah's family with simple proof to alleviate rumours and suspicion of their own kids. Right, so if partygoers from the dark side and parents of the partygoers from the dark side have not provided help or reached out to Noah Presgrove's family, would the same apply to Caden Pressey then? I'm only saying it like that because Robin Smith, in terms of her limited mention, which unfortunately lacks a bit of context, but how you interpret it, Robin Smith mentioned that when it came to Noah Presgrove one single lift home, she only heard about that on Facebook. No one personally reached out to her in regard to proof of that or the suggestion. So that would mean Caden Pressey or Alicia did not reach out to Robin Smith. So wasn't exactly helpful there if you wanted to be very specific about one example. But what do we have on the next slide? Okay, that one and that one. Okay. Well, we'll just add on to these and then I'll refer back to my points, I guess. John Doe, Donna Bond is kind of a crazy person, but this does not look good for Robin Smith if you ask me. Fair enough, what John says. And Jan says, Robin was in the throes of shock and grief. I'll give her grace all day long. Donna Bond, however, was not and is not. There is no good reason for Donna to have shared a screenshot of a private conversation with one of Noah's grieving family members. Other than ill intent, it's deplorable and inexcusable, period. Was there some Donna Bond interview of some sort which was on a different channel in recent time? How did that come about and, the aim of that? And then the last thing here, you might be wondering what this is. This is just from my point of view only. It will differ from person to person. But when you type in, well, not you, but when I type in Noah Presgrove's army, it no longer exists anymore. As in, it's there, but I don't have access to it, which is why it is. Who knows why? Could even be because of the recent videos, but fair enough. People do what they need to do, just like how people have done on Reddit over time. It does say though, the content isn't available at this moment, but the page or group does exist. It does. If you're signed out on Facebook and search for it, you'll be able to find it. But if you're signed in and you try searching for it, could be an indication that maybe you're blocked or maybe just certain access level has been altered with. It says here when this happens, it usually becomes the owner only shared it with a small group of people or changed who can see it, or it's been deleted. It's not been deleted, but it might have been changed to who can see it. So some people ticked off the list. I said, it is what it is. In terms of the other pages, they're okay at this moment in time, but there's always that chance that there could be a domino effect, and that's just being realistic. Right, so I'm back here showing my face, going to talk on and just add my thoughts and reflect back on certain things. Well, acknowledge Jan Fiorillo's comment. Yes, it was long, but just read it out. Did it need to all be mentioned? Well, from Jan's perspective, is to reinforce and highlight the importance behind it, the importance behind the things being enacted with time, the laws, some percentages along the way to show how successful it really is. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, a certain law, certain thing that's been put in place to provide safety for others down the line, and those of a younger age who might be in a more vulnerable situation, to save more lives would be considered a good thing. And even if there are percentages which can show that with time and progression being made, it still doesn't change the outcome with no Presgrove then. As in terms of the outlook, there is obviously outrage and a strong level of passion in regard to this final party because of what happened to Noah. But the parties before that and years back, would there have been a level of leniency? Likely, yeah. And I did say that there could be people in between and beforehand which may have reported similar parties, whoever they are. And if they have done, credit to them. They stand by what they say and what they think. You know, for that level of consistency. You know, there will be times where people could turn a blind eye or think, oh, it doesn't really matter, they're having fun, no harm's done, it's okay. And then as soon as something goes wrong, oh, now it's of your interest. Now you want some kind of justice. The possible question being slipped in to say, well, if there's a level of stronger passion in the first place, without being lenient, being more stricter, then it could have saved a life in the future. The people who may have previously reported, if that applies to Donovan as well, and anyone else in between that may have reported similar parties in the same location, or it could even be a different location but with the same people, let's put it like that. Those that have reported previous parties, credit to them, and it's very clear that's what I said in my last video. So the reality is, Jan Fiorillo, we don't have to be in a situation in the first place, but we still are. It's very unfortunate. I mean, you'd think it's somewhat self-explanatory, but I guess it hasn't been, right? Use the language and wording of, it comes across that people wouldn't care as much, as in beforehand. But those that did, even if they felt that there was no death involved, but it was still a crime and it needs to be reported, they're standing by with their beliefs and what they say. Yeah. It's simple as, right? Was there anything else to highlight there? Let's look at it from my perspective in terms of the importance of the social hosting laws being broken. Okay, so hopefully Jan listens to this part at least, and maybe other people. I do understand if maybe people from the dark side may not quite agree with me, or may think, or maybe a little bit frustrated. That's fair enough, but I'm just going to refer back to what I did say in the past and what I had covered back then, right? And that's in regard to social hosting law being broken, visible with the alcohol present and underage people, not of the age of the legal drinking limit. Even if people are 18 and technically are young adults, they're still not the right age to be actually drinking. I get that. So laws have been broken there. Presence of firearms too with drunk people, not ideal. Whilst no one may have got shot, there's always that possibility that it could have happened. I get that as well. drink driving to some extent. I mean, depending on who you hear it from some in the dark side, they said that when the likes of Georgia Breeley, 15, 16-year-olds, or round about that supposedly, had come on down, drove down, they were already drunk on the way coming down, which is bad. So if that was true, it depends, because from the light side perspective is Georgia Breeley were not drunk, they came on down, arrived at the house, and then were in the presence of alcohol and then got drunk. The same with Noah Presgrove. When he did arrive, that's when he got drunk, and so on and so on. But however people have worded it in the dark side is, well, Noah came down with his own bottle of alcohol and may have already been drunk. I wouldn't know directly about all that stuff, right? But the way I would interpret it is, if the dark side were saying that stuff about, well, these people that came on down who were not of the right age to be drinking came down already drunk, people from the light side could say, well, that's being used as a means of deflecting responsibility and trying to play down and dismiss the social hosting laws being broken, because if people have already shown up drunk, you know, the alcohol that's present at the party doesn't matter as much. They're already drunk. Or if there was no alcohol at the party to begin with, but people came on down and arrived at the house drunk, well, it's on them. It's not the focus point here at the house itself. Could see it as a diversion tactic from what the light side could interpret from the dark side. Is that not enough balance? You look back to my past videos, and I did several in regard to the social hosting laws being broken. Does that just get completely forgotten about? See, we looked out, you know, let's be honest, there was that time where you had Robin Smith and Ashley Chadwick, that, you know, Noah Presgrove's family members, that believed that there was no point in following up on the social hosting laws, or that being followed through, or the petition online, because it just would lead to more so a slap on the wrist, and it would also lead to supposedly, what was it, double jeopardy of it, or it somehow overlaps with the actual case at hand, and they don't want to cause any damage whatsoever to the case. Okay, maybe there could be counterpoints, like how Justin had said. No, the person would serve time for maybe 5 years, and it wouldn't overlap with the main case. It'd be all okay and fine. Maybe some know more than others. Maybe some Presgrove-related families members at the time just were very cautious and thinking, should it be done? Should it be? Don't want to cause harm. Don't want to ruin any possible chances. Want to be careful and whatnot. I get that. You know, stepping along on tiptoes, not wanting to mess anything up, just in case when something could be fragile. You want the best outcome. You want everything to go to plan. You might be extra careful, and it makes complete sense. Short responses or short question is, does Warlike Ref think that social hosting laws were broken to some extent? And I would say yes. There we go. Are the light side happy, or what? What I said then still applies now. I've just not acknowledged it as much because I've been looking at other areas within the case. But what I will say is, okay, based off what Caden Pressey has said, all the other parties in the past, which he went to along with Noah, that most of them, if not all, Noah would get drunk and then walk away, wander off, and then come back. That was in the past, at a time of when Noah was even younger than what he was with the final party he attended, and it was still alcohol. So all those past parties that Caden, Noah attended, social hosting laws were broken. And how many of them were actually reported or followed through with a police report? If there are people out there that have reported numerous times till the cows come home and there was no luck or no breakthrough or no movement, respect to the people that were, you know, consistent in following it up, trying to get some kind of justice even before any deaths have occurred. Yes, consistency. If no action taken, over a course of time. Yes, you could reinforce it as in it's not to the interest of the police, or they might be turning their cheek the other way. And if there's a pattern in regard to whose party it is, or if it's like recurring familiar names over time, on and on and on, constant reports leading to no action being taken, that is could be considered suspicious. Yes. But it all comes down to who. Who reported all the parties in the past? Did they? How many in this case, how many in this community online have been responsible for attempting to report the previous parties which the same said individuals attended in terms of social hosting laws being broken? That's what I was getting at, right? And based off the quietness of it, it's only Jan Fiorillo that really mentioned about a party beforehand, a weekend before, in which a person reported it. A person. Minority, is it not? If there, at some point there was a statistic, a figure, a number of people, named individuals that have come out, reached out and said, yeah, tried reporting it in the past several times, more than one familiar face, but many, you can understand why those same said individuals would be outraged. Now, what I'm trying to get at is, let's say the minority of certain said individuals that have reported, to the parties, familiar faces, social hosting laws being broken in the past. Those that have reported it in the past, and maybe numerous times, are in a position to be outraged now because they've seen the problems, they've highlighted the dangers, they wanted action to be taken, justice, and for protection for young people's lives in the future. They followed through with all the necessary steps, they've reached out to the correct people and authorities, and then it was the responsibility of the authorities and those in charge to take action. They did not so. They were lazy or turned the other cheek, corrupt, whatever you want to call it, maybe. No action taken. Then comes another party, and then comes the death of Noah. The people that reported it in the first place beforehand have every right to be fired up and pissed off now. But if there are others out there, and if it was the majority, let's put it that way, if it was, who hadn't really taken a thought or taken much action in the past to make reports, more so maybe in regard to parties which Noah Presgrove attended, right? Action wasn't taken then, but it is now. And now people are outraged. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how much more I'm supposed to make it clearer. I mean, I've compared it to, like when it comes to bullying, school shootings, the mindset and the outlook there. Care when it's too late, not when beforehand. Oh, act sad or feel sad now, but why not then? Because it wasn't of one's interest, it didn't impact them, but it does now because of a different person. It's not that a lot of change has to be acknowledged, but just highlighting it, like, let's say, the case comes about with Noah Presgrove, you respond back with, social hosting laws, they've been broken, it's led to a death. Things like this have happened in the past, in brackets, which I have not followed upon, nor participated in, nor have reported myself. I do acknowledge that, but enough is enough now. Just slight wording and language to be adjusted with time. It tends not to be done in this particular case, but when it came to Ashley, Chadwick, Robin Smith, when they said, no, we're not following through with the petition, we don't really agree with it, we don't think it's a good idea, it's not helpful. When I covered that at the time, I was like, well, that's a bit weird. It should be done. It should be followed up on. And you've got other Presgrove family members that are taking it up as well. So it seems like what the problem is, I could be covering it from the light side perspective for 10, 20, 100 years, and then I spend 6 weeks covering it from the dark side, and everything before that is completely neglected. People just neglect it and then just focus on all the one-sided nature of the darkness and what I've covered from there. and forget all the other videos that have been done in the past. Unfortunate. And well, yes, the counterpoint, once again, is, majority don't care beforehand. Well, what percentage of people actually did report the previous parties? The passionate and the vocal people in this case community, were they outraged back then? So you could even bring it a lot more closer. And, this isn't anything like directly negative specifically towards Justin Roy, but it does put it into perspective. So make sure to listen, really listen. I showed you that screenshot earlier where Justin Roy was elsewhere with his family, across a river further on. It was like camping, hanging out. And whilst he was there with family, he checked his phone every now and then, and I showed you earlier where he saw some Snapchat post of what was going on at the party. He was aware of his own family that were down there too. I don't know what age his family who were down there, what age they were, underage, under the drinking age or what. If they were, or if some were under the drinking age limit, then Justin Roy would be aware at that moment in time that social hosting laws are being broken. And with Justin being somewhat close to Noah Presgrove and seeing footage of Noah Presgrove dancing, and if there was any signs of alcohol, Justin did acknowledge about the drinking and wasn't too sure what was in the drinks. Maybe that's the leniency in which Justin just assumes that the drinks are non-alcoholic. Maybe. If by any chance Justin was somewhat aware that alcohol was at that party through what you saw through the Snapchat post and whatnot, and Justin in his comment, it's not my party, it's not my place, but might be somewhat vocal towards the social hosting laws being reported and followed up on. You get what I'm saying to some extent? That if you were aware that there is a party in the moment which you're not attending, but you might be aware or know some people that are attending, and if they're not quite of the correct age, and if you had some kind of knowledge that if you had some kind of knowledge that there may have been alcohol present, and you were like, oh well, people having fun is what it is. And then after you hear about the death of Noah, and then it's like, oh, now there's a problem. Like, what I'm getting at is, if Noah Presgrove didn't die and there was no deaths, ask yourself, Jan, how many people would have reported that party then? As many as those who have done so since. And even those who may have not reported it directly but signed a petition, right? How many people would have taken action in regard to that specific party of Avery's, 22nd birthday one, that party, September 4th, 3-4 day period of it taking place, the party. If Noah didn't die at that particular party, what percentage of people still would have reported it for the social hosting laws being broken? Can that be answered? Because it makes me think it would be a lot lower than what it is after. It makes sense for people to report it and follow up on the social hosting laws once it's too late, once something bad has happened, because now it's like, well, here we go, here's an example. And what tends to happen in life is something bad has to happen in order for change to be made. That's just how it normally tends to be. Someone has to suffer in order for then action to be taken. Oh, there needs to be a death here, there needs to be a mass shooting there needs to be a suicide here. Oh, and then people may care, or then people may take more action, more knowledge, more consideration. So off the backs of people's sufferings and demises and departing from this world, then things are built on top of it, foundations. Too late in a way. Yes, it protects the future to some extent, but beforehand, not quite for them. So I'm just being realistic. I don't know how much more realistic and clearer I can get. That if Noah didn't die, there probably wouldn't be a petition set up, right? There wouldn't be that awareness about the problem overall, social hosting laws being broken. Less people would act on it. There wouldn't be as strong of a reason to do so. But as soon as, whenever there's like a tragedy, a bad event, locals you'd understand, but people further out may take more action because now of a bad event and the emotional language, the sadness about it, and oh no, we can't have this happen again. Right? It's the factor, it's the event itself which kind of like persuades people to take action because something bad has already happened. People feel bad about it, people feel sad, people don't want to see or hear it happen again. But if there was no death at that particular party, people be like, oh. The ones that continuously report those parties, regardless of a death or not, they are consistent and stick with what they believe in. That's fine. But I'm just getting at where those are others that may become very vocal or pushy or forceful. It's like, whoa, calm down. Whilst maybe social hosting laws have been broken, were you like this? Did you have that same passion? Did you have that same push in the past or not? And I feel not everyone did the same way as now. Now there's a death, then there wasn't. I think that's clear enough, or as clear as can be. As in, like, right now, do I think that the social hosting laws and the rules broken there should be followed upon right now? If laws were broken, then they probably should be followed upon. Yeah. And then see where it goes from there. If it can be used as a measuring tool to, just in general, to say whether the police are going to take action or not, proactiveness or not, that would be interesting. Well, it is what it is. What else did I want to mention? See, the DUI, drunk disorderly, drink driving, the damages that it can have there, alcohol in itself. See, it might differ from country to country, but some countries like the UK can be very strict on drugs and different variants there. Oh, it's not good for people, it's dangerous, it's harmful and whatnot. Oh, but as for alcohol, we can be more lenient there. Alcohol can be just as dangerous and bad towards the person consuming it, and unfortunately the people on the receiving end of it, like in public, loudmouths, acting up, physical, verbal, losing control of themselves. Some people can handle it, other people can't. Some people can lash out in negative ways. And those that may drive whilst drunk can then be a danger to themselves and also a danger towards other people on the road. So alcohol from the beginning can be problematic if it's not consumed properly or by a responsible person. But in regard to the Noah Presgrove case, kind of tying in line, if Noah Presgrove had returned back to the party Sunday night in his own vehicle, if there was no issues and he came on down in his own vehicle, if at any point he needed a ride home, he couldn't he? He would get in his own vehicle and drive home, you'd think. Of course, if he's drunk, how far is he going to get? That side-by-side rollover, was that a measure of because Noah was drunk and just couldn't control it properly? If so, just imagine what it could have been like in his own vehicle if he had left, if he had gone on the highway and tried driving home. He could still have ended up dead. Would that specific outcome drive home more in regards to the social hosting laws being broken? To an extent, yes. But Noah did not drive himself from the looks of it, drunk, but still ended up dead. See, I'll give you an alternative in just a second. But just a theme of if Noah had been driving to get back home in his own vehicle, not only is there a chance that he could still end up dying anyway because of drunk driving, flipping over, and there was a crash if it was fatal, but then he would also be endangering the lives of innocent people simply passing on by. Collateral damage, which isn't good, and that needs to be acknowledged as well. So obviously Noah is the victim, but if it ended differently, and if Noah had been driving and crashed, would he still be the only victim? No. There'd be other people caught up, wouldn't there? Other people minding their business, getting on with life, and then a drunk person comes out of nowhere and crashes into them. More than one victim, more Sam. That didn't happen here, but it could have done. And if it did, it probably would have been an even stronger drive and push behind the social hosting laws being broken. Drunk driving leading to the death. Where did the alcohol originate from? Supposedly party house. I know people from the dark side have said Noah turned up drunk already. I don't know if there's any hard evidence of that. I don't know if that would be possible to prove. But what I wanted to say, like as a miscellaneous thing, you could have a party, social laws, hosting laws broken, Noah drunk himself. But what if there was social hosting laws broken but Noah did not drink? If he didn't, I know he did, but if he didn't, but he still died, would the social hosting laws be pushed as much as it is in this case? See, because Noah Presgrove wandered off by himself drunk and did not return and died in the process, people will push the social hosting laws, and I understand, because you've got a drunk person in a vulnerable situation by themselves, reaction timing slowed down, reflex as well. By themselves, anything could happen. No one around, and under the influence of alcohol, which may have been distributed from the party. So you can see the link on becoming vulnerable because of the social hosting laws. But if that's not what made Noah vulnerable, if somehow Noah Presgrove died because of a stranger or passerby, and if Noah hadn't been drunk but was murdered, would social hosting laws come into the discussions as much or not? Just as an alternative question, just to see where people's perspectives really are at and how passionate and strict people really are. Anyway, this more drawn out video was somewhat needed. Jan Fiorillo's comment rather long. I don't know if Jan's got a middle name or not, because obviously we're saying, I'm no longer present here or I'm moving on elsewhere. Fair enough. I mean, maybe edit the username to Jan, I'm out of here, Fiorillo, but I'm back again. Or Jan, is this the way to Amarillo, Fiorillo? I don't know. That's just being light-hearted to try and cut through the darkness. But what I will do now is something a bit more light-hearted, okay? What more can I say? Actually, maybe I should do before I do the disclaimer, maybe I should just do a little conclusion to what's been talked about there. If anyone has joined late to this live premiere specifically, rewind back to the beginning where I talk about the Noah Presgrove case, okay? The conclusion to the discussions of today in regard to the case is that I feel that there is more than one victim within the case ongoing. You got the original victim, Noah, but then all the other people along the way which have been dragged through the mud or dragged into the case when they're innocent or threatened or slandered or harassed in different ways from both sides, more than one victim. I'm surprised Justin Roy didn't highlight his daughter as a victim to what has gone on, not being involved in the case, but somehow getting dragged into it and post being used against them. I'm just surprised that wasn't mentioned by Justin. Very interesting. But yeah, and then in regard to the social hosting laws, they've been broken, should be followed up on. If they have been and no action taken, questionable from the perspectives of the authorities that should be taking action, I'd understand that. I would understand though people's outlook on, well, if that's the case, well then the outlook could be negative towards those same people handling the case itself, lack of action, possibly. That's all I'm saying. Social hosting laws, but I do feel that less people would have acted if Noah hadn't died. If Noah was okay and there was no death, less people would be reporting that party. I don't know what's wrong for saying that. It seems pretty likely, because the response to feedback, these petitions, particular petition which came out, which we've seen with time, that's because of the death of Noah Presgrove onwards. Was that petition there before the death of Noah? No. Would that petition have been created onwards if Noah didn't die? No. So it gained traction. It gained a lot of people for voting it. But all those thousands of people probably wouldn't have followed up on it if Noah was still alive. It's just, I don't know, it's just like common sense. And, you know, without getting too deep or so, I'm sure there'll be like many, many families out there in the US, for example, and hangouts, get-togethers where the people, it might be people who are of a certain younger age, giving a little sip of alcohol here or there. Maybe it differs if there's supervision of an adult or parent, maybe there's exceptions, but, you know, there will be leniency. But maybe people pick and choose when that leniency comes about. Sometimes it's not always easy to explain, but I've seen it myself. That's okay, this is okay, but no, that isn't. Because now there's a problem. But at the end of the day, there's only so much I can say and explain. If people don't get it, it is what it is. What I'm going to do now, though, we're transitioning onto something completely different. If there is some form of time left to do it, this is really to cut through the darkness. It's just light-hearted. It's separate from the case, and hopefully people understand that. You want to rewind back to the stuff, do so. But right now, do something a bit different, and that's it. Following on from last night, because it was somewhat short, I'll add it on now. I think that's good. And some people requested it to an extent. So what we got right now, oh my God, I need to go through some kind of transitional phase, and not quite like that. My goodness, get a grip. Beauty, Garumo, welcome. Sharon, welcome. Beauty, Sharon, Sharon, beauty. There we go. As example, the appointment room, doctor's consultation, more intensive today. See the people back there. You know what's going to happen. How do things start in the first place? Well, my God, Beauty Garumo, feeling a little under the weather. Looks like it's healing time with an appropriate nature. Okay? Healing videos have been done in the past. There's no harm in doing so. And Sharon, whether you need healing or not, you're probably going to say yes anyway, because, you know, I'm sure you got like a gift voucher for discounts when it comes to Dr. Raf's appointment room because you spend so long in them. Wow. So we've got 5-star reviews when it comes to, you know, the healing sessions by Dr. Raf. I think over 500 5-star reviews, about 499 of them are created by Sharon and alternative accounts. Shh. Let's not say that too loud because it'll create false conspiracies elsewhere with people. My God, Beauty Garumo. Beauty Garumo, you got to be protecting Sharon, yeah? Bring all the homegirls and the army behind them. So, in front of me, Beauty Garumo on the right, Sharon on the left. How do things come about now? Well, these need to be used in order to keep people focused and in place. Any movement, right? You could, I know it. You could get a paintbrush, not a paintbrush. You could get a makeup brush in the eye. You could get lipstick shoved up the nose. You don't want that. You got to keep still. Got to keep calm. Oh my God. Do I think that I got to chain people down because naturally I just don't trust that they can keep still? Yeah, my God. If you got Beauty Garumo moving to the beat 24/7, constantly moving about, such a hectic lifestyle, very busy. You got Sharon as well, same exact situation. Might not be able to keep still for too long, but when it's in place, no choice. So, when it comes to strawberries, sometimes you just got to hold them in place and then proceed onwards. So, Beauty Garumo. There we go. This is something brand new, isn't it? Yeah. Come on. Come on. Yeah. Yeah, what was that, Beauty Garumo? You wanted ASMR brush strokes with a brush going up and down with the noises of relaxation. We can do that as well, but I think a few little noises like that, yeah? Yeah. Sharon, oh, your arm's already out because you know the drill. Experienced. Very positive to see. Okay. Put your arm in there. Yeah. There we go. Can't move. Perfect. So that's what was needed. Oh my God, this looks so wholesome. You got strawberry, you got beauty chained together like strawberries upon some kind of plant in pairs. Wherever strawberry pulls, beauty will follow. Wherever beauty pulls, strawberry will follow. The synchronicity is so heartwarming. My God. But what we need to do, okay? And I don't know where this has come from. I don't know. Ah, Sharon, is this your car horn? It must have fell off when you were in a rush. There you go. Have it back. Yeah, apologies about that. Got a few items in front of me, of course, including the brushes. But, you know, we've also got the tiny ones as well. Because whilst Beauty Gurumo tried painting the nails and it was a bit all over the place, which I'm a little bit disappointed about, and whilst Sharon had a better focus and eye coordination, for once, just able to hit the spot, you know, get the tips in place, and it didn't spread too much on the nails. Not my time though, this time. It's the people in front. Okay, so before we even get to the brushes, whose hand comes first, right? Oh, Sharon? Your hand, red once again. No surprise there. What, fortune telling or something? Rub the palm. Yeah? No? Okay. Turn it around the other way. Oh my God. Did your hand even need painting, Sharon? Oh my God. I don't know why I'm doing that voice with you, but I'll just stick with the same voice. It's a bit more consistent. My God, bitch. Your colour is clashing with my robe. How dare you? I'll have to derobe myself because we don't want colours clashing over there. Okay. There we go. Painting it with imaginary paint. Yes, because we don't want to get too messy this time round. So Sharon, is that good enough? Yeah? Painting perfectly all the way around. Yeah, there we go. See, we should be doing conversation, talking midway through, but I'm shit out there. I don't know what the fuck to say. I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing right now. There we go. And Beauty Gurumo. Oh my God, Beauty Gurumo, you've been through the wars? My God, I need some TLC. Don't even worry. There we go. So this may be the side effect when in handcuffs. It can make the hands a little bit swollen. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to brush around the sides. Perfectly fine. There we go. Move it away. And then, what else do we have? Oh yeah, this unusual device here. So you give it a tug, you give it a pull, and then it'll measure the weight or strength or something. I guess you could treat it as like grip strength. Come on, Beauty Gurumo. Come on, get your hand on it. Yeah, yeah. Oh my God, such a real strong individual. Look at that. It's upside down, isn't it? But oh well. Did it show? It shows my reflection on the screen, which is interesting. It's like 30, 12. Yeah. So much power. And you as well. And Sharon, oh my God, Sharon, you're going to break the device. Calm down. I know you got good grip strength, but I didn't know it was that much. Yeah. There we go. So basically, the readings say that the strawberries have it under control in grip. There's no worries there. As for the brushes, these will have to do for now. Okay. So. Come on, Beauty Gurumo, just calm down and breathe. It's all fine. And over there as well. And then this, I don't know what the fuck that is, to be honest. What the hell's that? I just found it. It's some kind of like brush of some sort with a white tip. Do you want that? Oh, sorry, Beauty Gurumo. Yeah, I know. Gonna make you sneeze. Do you want that, Sharon? No. You want the tip of it, though? Maybe, because it's a little bit cleaner. You have the tip, Sharon. Use the brush on the side of the face. Gee, there we go. Yeah, in and out. Well, I don't know why we're doing that. Okay, well, a few little brushes there. Healing brushes, that's all it is. Shh. There we go. And don't worry, Beauty Gurumo, if you get the moo-moos and you're very hungry, I've got a rubber egg here. It bounces as well. Well, it did at one point, it doesn't now. I think that'll do. There we go. So, my name's Raf. Hopefully you found the video somewhat interesting. We'll see what happens next time, but thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night for now.